This is the first in a series of tutorials that work through the fundamentals of AutoCAD, which is a great program for two-dimensional drawing. This tutorial will explain how to import a scanned raster image and then trace it in order to create an editable vector drawing. When we first open AutoCAD, we are going to choose the template acad.dwt, because as you can see when you hover over it, it is a color-dependent plot style, which is what we will use to control our line weights. The interface has a ribbon menu, similar to Microsoft Office products, with different tabs. There are also layout tabs at the bottom that allow you to switch between model and paper space. Navigation and zooming tools on the right, pan and zoom extents are often useful, and drawing aids along the bottom, a grid for working space, and object snaps, which we will discuss later. There is also a command bar at the bottom. This is an incredibly important aspect in understanding and effectively completing commands. It will often prompt you with a thing to select or do or provide options. The first command we want to type is units. Simply begin typing and you will see the command options appear. The shortcut is given to you here, so simply type UN and hit enter. This should be the first thing you do every time you create a new AutoCAD file. Change the type to architectural, which uses inches and feet, and make sure the unit is in inches. Another thing we should do initially is to set up some preferences. Go up to the main drop-down menu on the top and choose Options. Choose right-click Customization, and then select Repeat Last Command and Enter for those three. Apply and close. We also want to change the colors of the crosshairs, so go to Display, Colors, choose crosshairs, and you want to make sure that's yellow. Hit OK to apply these changes. Now we want to bring in our file. You can type Image or go up to Insert, Attach, and choose the file. Your file should already be cropped and cleaned up in Photoshop. You can insert the file as a JPEG, PNG, or TIFF, or a bitmap, which is a black and white file that will be inserted with transparency and may help to simplify your file. The option here of full or relative path is asking whether, when the file links, as it does in InDesign, whether it should be remembered with its full path and place in your current computer you're working on, or just relative to the file we're creating, simply remembering the folder it exists in. In most cases, using the relative path creates more flexibility when moving the file between multiple computers. This specify should be checked, this specify should be checked, and this angle should be 0. Click to select the point of insertion, and then use the second click to arbitrarily choose a size. We can find our External References palette under View, External References, and we're going to keep that open here to the side. If you're working with several different palettes up, an easy way to keep it simple is to simply hit this button. To scale your image, type in SC or select the Scale tool on the Homepage ribbon. This is where our command prompt starts being useful. It is going to ask you to select the object to scale, which you do by clicking the edge. Hit enter so the program knows you're done selecting, and then it asks you for a base point. This is the origin point from which the image will scale. Once you've selected that, you see the command bar gives you a couple options or just lets you drag to scale. We want to type R, meaning reference. Hit enter again to make your decision, and then we need to find a reference point to scale. Your drawing may have a graphic scale or dimensions, or you may just have a dimension that you can make an educated guess at. Whatever it is, now trace that length from one end to the other. Hold Shift if your line is orthogonal. Once you've specified both ends, the command bar will ask you to specify your new length. Type in the given or estimated dimension. Note that if you type any numbers, the program will assume inches, so if it is in feet, you need to type the apostrophe. Hit enter, and the image may blow up beyond recognition. Use your zoom extents tool, or type Z, and choose Extents. We want to check our scaling to make sure it worked properly, so choose the same or a different dimension and type in DI for distance. Similarly, you choose both endpoints, and if you hold your mouse button still, the measurements will be given to you. Obviously, your scaling may not be perfect, and this technique is not entirely precise. Use your discretion. If the measurement is less than an inch or so off, you should be good. Now we're going to begin creating our own drawing based off of our scaled image. Let's first pull out our Properties tab, which can be found under View or by typing Layer, and then creating a new layer titled A Wall. This notation implies that the layer contains elements that are architectural. L is often used to demarcate landscape, and S is for structure, and this is just another form of organization. We're going to set the color to cyan, and then we're going to double click here to make sure that's the layer that we are currently working on. Before moving on, let's also make a layer called Z Image and change the inserted picture to be on this layer. A quick note about the selection tool. If you click and drag while selecting, it is a bit of a free selection. If you want to select with a simple boundary, click but do not hold, and then click again to determine the opposite corner of the rectangle selection. If you select from right to left, the program will select all elements that are touching or partially within the selection bounds. If you select from right to left, the program will only select the objects that are completely within the selection. Use this knowledge to select your image and then go up to the top to Layers to change which layer it belongs to. We're also going to go to Layer in Properties Manager and change the color to color 200. Now we want this to be accurate tracing, not just careless clicking around the edge. If our building is orthogonal, we're going to hit F8 to turn on ortho mode to make sure all of our angles are correctly straight. We will begin by tracing a line, leaving some overlap at the edges. L is the shortcut, or you can simply click Line. Choose your first endpoint. If you need to access ortho mode but do not want to leave it on throughout multiple commands, simply hold Shift to constrain your line or angle and choose your second endpoint. Right-click to finish your line. Then we are going to measure the distance perpendicular to get the opposite wall's dimension using the distance command, keyboard shortcut DI. Again, if you do not have ortho mode on, hold Shift when you measure. Round appropriately and then type the command offset, shortcut just O. Type in the measurement you just took, hit enter, select the opposite wall's line, and then the direction, and it will put it into place for you. Use the tools Line, Distance, and Offset to set the overall dimensions of your plan. Check your drawing every so often by turning off the Z image layer so you can see just the vectors you've drawn. Clean up long lines using trim and fillet. Fillet, F, is best for corners. Make sure that the radius is 0 by clicking R, Enter, 0, Enter for sharp corners, and then select the lines that you want to meet at your corner. In order to repeat a command, right-click. Once you have this, use distance to determine your wall's thickness based on your image, and then use offset to create those extra lines. Another strategy would be to, once you have the original outer lines, would be to select them, join them with a J, and then offset the rectangle as a whole. E is the shortcut for erase because simply clicking a line and hitting delete does not do the trick. And undo is Control Z, as it always is. Object snaps, which can be customized down here, are useful to get relationships correct. For example, if one wall bisects another at the center, as it does here, we can turn on the midpoint object snap and take off the endpoint, intersection, and extension. This makes it such that when we draw a new line, it automatically knows to begin at the midpoint. Trim is the command we can use here to clean up these lines. Take off your image and then type TR for trim, then select your cutting lines that you want to use as the trimming boundaries, and then hit enter. Then select the piece of line that you want to get rid of. Note that if you're erasing multiple pieces, you can undo the last selection with Ctrl Z within the command so as not to ruin your entire selection if you accidentally select wrongly. Another great thing to try is typing the trim command, then hitting enter twice, which allows the program to guess at the boundaries and lines you are looking to trim based on where your mouse hovers. The counter to trim would be the extend command, EX, where you can select the boundary, then hit enter, and then select objects that you want to extend to the boundary. Like in trim, you can also hit enter twice and the program will basically just extend whatever line you choose to the next boundary. The move and copy commands are similar and may also be useful to you. Type M or CO or use the squares up in the Home tab ribbon. Then select your line or object. As always, hit enter, then choose an origin point from which to move or copy your piece. Drag it to the new spot you'd want it to be, or you can clarify the distance and direction in the command bar. Then click again and complete your command. Using line, offset, fillet, trim, extend, move, and copy, you should be able to simply outline your chosen floor plan. Be precise as you can, add details where possible, and use this exercise to begin getting comfortable using AutoCAD. Save your file with the appropriate name as a DWG.